we will start with the New York Giants, whose coaching search has shifted apparently to Vikings offensive coordinator Pat Shurmur, who reportedly now has the inside track to become the 18th head coach in franchise history. The Giants are planning to schedule a second interview next week with Shurmur, this according to our Dan Graziano and Chris Mortensen. Bill Polian, I'll start with you and ask you a simple question. Is Shurmur a fit for the New York Giants?
In a word, yes. He's a great offensive mind. He can handle any situation. Witnessed last year when the Minnesota Vikings literally did not have an offensive line. And he was able to construct an offense that got the ball out quickly, that ran the ball. It was amazing. And, of course, he's done a great job this year. He's terrific in terms of the game. He knows the division. He was with the Philadelphia Eagles, probably for close to 10 years in two separate iterations. And he's a terrific football coach and did a really good job in Cleveland where no one does a good job.
Clearly. Now it looks like the job he did was pretty admirable given what we've seen since. Dan, obviously you're plugged in with the Giants. Take us through what the process has been like and where we're going.
Yeah, we use all these words, right? I mean, I don't know if the focus has shifted necessarily to Shurmur. He may have been the strongest candidate all along. Last week it sounded like maybe Matt Patricia was in the lead, but then some other information is that maybe he wasn't. So anyway, Shurmur, you point out, Bill, the job in Cleveland. This was at the height of Cleveland dysfunction, and you know, the record is not good, but most people's record isn't good in Cleveland. So what did he do? How did he manage people there? Giants talk to people who are around that situation. They hear good things. You look at the idea of getting to the NFC Championship game and possibly farther with Case Keenum, a third-string quarterback to start the season. You look at that. That's a guy that can take some pieces and make something out of it, regardless of how they look on offense. The Giants, from what I understand, they're looking for a head coach, capital H, capital C. Not offensive guy, defensive guy. They want the leader. They want a guy that they think can lead the locker room. Locker room was a mess this year. Not that that's a reflection on Ben McAdoo, but the fact of the matter is the locker room was a mess this year. So whoever they're bringing in has to be able to control those kinds of situations. So they believe that Pat Shurmur is a guy who's got head coach experience, benefited from it, knows what he did right and did wrong, and will be better the second time, and that's a key element to what they want to do.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, Lewis, that it is Shurmur. What type of personnel issues does he inherit from the outset?
Well, I think first and foremost, and look, Bill alluded to the fact that he has experience dealing with teams that have offensive line deficiencies, and that's one of the first things he's going to have to address there, particularly at the tackle position with the New York Giants. He has a tremendous weaponry on the perimeter with Odell Beckham, with Evan Ingram at tight end. They have to get a running game that is competent and one that they can rely on and they can trust. Obviously, that starts with the offensive line. They have a good running back there in young Wayne Gallman from Clemson. They will probably look to add another guy as far as the running back situation is concerned. On defense, they have pieces at the first level and the third level, meaning they have two tremendous defensive tackles. They have defensive ends that need to be more productive. They need speed at linebacker. They need more playmaking at linebacker, and they have a wonderful corner in Janoris Jenkins, and they have a great safety in Landon Collins. So there are pieces, you know, all throughout this roster, but they have to take care of the offensive line first, which is one of Pat's specialties. They have to take care of quarterback, which is one of Pat's specialties. But they've got some things to work with here for sure from a personnel perspective.
If they like the young quarterback as the guy of the future, can you say Saquon Barkley?
Wow.
If they like Davis Webb, you mean, as their guy?
Sure.
Yeah. Then they don't have to take one at number 2?
That's correct.
I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, obviously, you know, the playoff of what Bill's saying, that ownership there loves what they used to have when they had Tiki, Brandon Jacobs, Sean O'Hara, Chris Snee. I used to go against those teams when I was in personnel with the Redskins. They were a nightmare.
I was going to say, there's a reason they liked them, because they were effective.
Exactly.
And in that division and in the Meadowlands, you need a running game. You need a powerful running game. And so that's Lou's exactly right. That's what they're going to look to. That's the blueprint. Not
lost in all this, of course, is that Shurmur still has a job to do. His team is still playing, vying in the NFC Championship game. We often talk panic or patience on Tuesdays. We'll do that now then, and I'll say this. Panic or patience, Shurmur a distraction for Minnesota, his situation.
Yeah, I go patience here. I think that the system is set up to make sure this stuff does not distract teams. I really do. I think, you know, he cannot interview this week, couldn't interview last week, can do only second interviews next week if they win with teams that have already talked to him, and can't do a thing at Super Bowl. So I mean, we saw it last year with Kyle Shanahan. I know what happened in the Super Bowl, but I don't think that was because Kyle Shanahan was lining himself up to be the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. The system is designed to force these guys to focus on their jobs as much as possible and keep this out of it, and teams have been through this before.
Well, and coaches, Bill, are notoriously sort of creatures of habit anyway. I would think, it's not a stretch to say they can lock in with the best of them.
Oh, absolutely not. And you have so much work to do when you're in the playoffs and you've gone this far that you're just consumed with it. When I was in Indianapolis and later as a member of the personnel committee, I've counseled coaches who are candidates and said to them, look, in June, prior to the year that you're going to be a candidate, line your staff up. Get it all lined up. Have the org chart ready. You're going to need it in the interview.
That's so smart.
And talk to the people so you don't have to be making phone calls now.
That's a great point.
Yeah, he's got some guys on that staff, namely the head coach, who I think can really counsel him through a situation like this if he were to somehow, some way get off task. But if you know Pat Shurmur, he's a guy who will be able to compartmentalize and understand, look, there's a job potentially waiting for me, and that's great. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And at the same time, you're playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Pat's about as even keel as it gets. I don't think he's going to be one of those people who all of a sudden loses sight of what he's tasked with right now, which is trying to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. He won't lose sight of that at all.
I remember I ran into Kyle at the Super Bowl last year, and I said, congratulations, I guess, on everything. And he said, yeah, things are going pretty well. He's in the Super Bowl. He's about to become a head coach, right?
I think that's what you call a good week from a professional standpoint.
Yeah.
Things are going well. As I indicated earlier, the Giants, one of 5 head coaching jobs open. We'll talk more about all 5, the challenges of each, and who, of course, the leading candidates are. Mike Vrabel, a name we've heard batted around quite a bit. He now appears to be in the mix.